live.
Good morning, Summa scholars. Welcome to the Daily Summa. Today is Cinco de Mayo, May 5th, in the season of Eastertide. Dude, me being a Houston, Texas boy, love Cinco de Mayo. Just got back from the liquor store and I should have got some tequila. I would rather, well, first, how you doing, Joe? How's your Cinco de Mayo going?
Yeah.
Did you know it was Cinco de Mayo?
Great. I knew it was May 5th.
Okay. Yeah. So anyway, we're going to try to do a short page today, folks. We try to do that sometimes around here. And fortunately, it actually is a short page because Joe and I have somewhere to go. I don't know if you can tell, but it's also not morning. My car is on the fritz, as I think I told you guys. So we're having some logistic problems until we get thousands and thousands of local subscribers. And then we have our own little building to go to. And then everything works smooth as silk. But until then, if we have car problems or Wi-Fi problems, we just have problems. But we are serving up hot and ready a daily Summa for you every single day, except for the days that we don't.
It's like the same Little Caesars promise, like hot and ready. Like we're here and we're ready to go. We're not very good.
Mm-hmm.
It's gonna taste like cardboard.
Yep.
But we're here for you.
But it's gonna get there.
It's gonna get there. It's here for you.
You may not like the music the driver's playing super loud down your quiet, nice little white picket fence neighborhood, but you're going to get your pizza.
That's right.
Served up hot and ready. We had a guy that we called Hot and Ready back in Helio's days in the band. This is a great story. I'll start off with a little story just to make it shorter.
Good.
We called him Hot and Ready because he worked for, what is it?
Little Caesars.
Little Caesars. And man, Hot and Ready got his tooth knocked out one night by these two drug crazed like guys who were jacked. So here's what happened. The guys come into the bar, we're playing, and it's kind of like our thing this Monday night. Everybody came to see us. So there's a large amount of kids in this place. It's packed, and they would be there every Monday night, and it became like a thing where everyone knew Monday night Helio's Sideshow Tramps are playing, and so this place is completely packed. Josie, who I wrote a song, and you can find it on Spotify, Sideshow Tramps, Josie. Josie is at the bar, and she's a wildcat. And there's another girl taking tickets at the front, right? And so these two guys come in, and apparently they start stealing people's wallets or something. These guys were like, I'm guessing 28, and both of them just jacked and violent and way not part of the crew. You could tell this was like before woke, but this is like the whole woke world, you know? And so these guys are, and somebody says something to them, tells them to get out. I was not around when all this happened. I just saw the end part of it. I go out into the front, big, it abuts the main street in Houston, Westheimer, Montrose, and there's a big patio full of kids, and this truck, these two guys get in the truck and they drive off, and some kid takes a bottle of beer as they're driving away and flings it, and it hits their truck. This stupid kid probably grew up in the suburbs. The only violence he ever known is from video games, so he thinks it's not real, you know. He's like, I'll throw like they're driving away. It's safe. I can throw a bottle at them. Like the steering wheel doesn't work in their vehicle anymore. These guys go, and they stop it, and I've never seen anything like it. They went complete Wolverine on the crowd. So this outside patio had a ramp on the side of it where a wheelchair can go down. And then there's a fence and another fence that's about this high, you know. These two guys just slam on the brakes. They both jump out of the car. They jump on that fence and they jump over. I watched it happen. I mean, face first into the crowd. I'm telling you, Wolverine style. And they just start, boom, slugging guys and girls. They didn't care. They start slugging them. And I'm watching Sideshow Tramps fans fly left and right like waves off of a ship's prow. These guys are just as they're walking through, and they go up the steps. People are flying. And me and Scott and Hot and Ready are like, oh, we got to do something. So I start moving around to the side to get them when they go down the ramp. They would have slaughtered me more than likely. But when that happens, your mind doesn't do
it's
that.
different.
Your mind's like, I need to go defend the tribe.
Mm-hmm.
So Scott's a big guy, and he's walking down the ramp, and they come through, and the girl that was sitting there at the ticket thing, they just punch her for no reason. They just walk by her and punch her, and then they go down the ramp, and me and Scott are coming this way behind them. But Hot and Ready was coming either up the ramp or he was too close, and they just knocked his tooth out. They just slam and his tooth flies, blood, and then they jump back in the vehicle and take off. And then they called, and then Josie came out screaming with the chain. She comes out and she starts chasing after them. You know, saying all kinds of expletives, swinging a chain. It was so beautiful. But they took off, and then the cops came, and the cops were like, "Oh, okay, interesting, very good." Throw that away. We don't care,
right?
But yeah, goofy dude threw the beer at these two guys. You got to know when it's time to let it go, and you got to know that there's something really called violent people who don't care about humanity and laws and your safety and stuff like that. All right, let's make this a quick page. I'm just going to read through this and then say a couple things. We did the beginning of Article 16 yesterday, so you can go back and look at that in yesterday's show. But we'll start with the I answer that at the bottom of page 170. The I answer that of Article 16. Some knowledge is speculative only, some is practical only, and some is partly speculative and partly practical. In proof whereof it must be observed that knowledge can be called speculative in three ways. First, on the part of the things known, which are not operable by the knower. He's going to give examples of this. Such is the knowledge of a man about natural or divine things. Second, as regards the manner of knowing, as for instance, if a builder consider a house by defining and dividing and considering what belongs to it in general, for this is to consider operable things in a speculative manner and not as practically operable. For operable means the application of form to matter. So if a guy is studying architecture and he doesn't care to build a building, he doesn't care to make his own house, he's just interested in architecture and he thinks it's neato. He's studying it in a purely speculative manner with no operable. He has no desire to take a form in his head, a vision of a house, and then apply that form to matter, which would be wood, stone, and whatnot that you would make a house with. He has no desire to take form in his head and apply it to matter. He just is speculatively studying it. And not the resolution of the composition into its universal formal principles. Third, as regards the end. This is all the ways that you can use the word speculative. Third, as regards the end. For the practical intellect differs in its end from the speculative. The practical is, well, quite frankly, concerned with practical things. That which is seen in Malchus, the visible kingdom, and that which can be used in a material way. As the philosopher says, for the practical intellect is ordered to the end of the operation, whereas the end of the speculative intellect is the consideration of truth. The speculative is deciding, let's use truth in this way, in this example as being mathematics and physics. The speculative is interested in how heavy a beam is, how much weight is another beam, a column can support. That's speculative. The type of material, can wood carry more than marble? How deep should the foundation be? These are things that some people can take great delight in without ever making a house. And some people, they just don't care. They just want to make the house. They want their hands on some wood, feeling the scrape of the wood and the dial coming up, a clean piece of fresh pine or oak. That's the practical intellect. So the speculative intellect is consideration of the truth, the length, weight, physics of it, and the practical is the application. Hence, if a builder should consider how a house can be made, not ordering this to the end of the operation, but only to know it, this would be only a speculative consideration as regards the end, although it concerns an operable thing. It concerns something that is essentially operable. but his end, his goal is not to be operable and to be operating and making it. His goal is only to consider the speculative truth part of it. So the truth part is his goal instead of the operation. Therefore, knowledge which is speculative by reason of the thing itself known is merely speculative. But that which is speculative either in its mode or as to its end is partly speculative and partly practical. And when it is ordained to an operative end, it is simply practical. If the knowledge is, there are some people who know nothing about physics, architecture, but they know how to build a house. They have practical knowledge. They don't need to understand all the speculative things about it. It's in their bones, it's in their muscles, it's in their tradition. They've been taught. They don't need to know why it works, how it works, and they don't even care. All right, in accordance with this, therefore, it must be said that God has of himself, regarding himself, a speculative knowledge only. Regarding himself, he has a speculative knowledge only. For he himself is not operable. He's not an operator, he is act. Operation is space-time language. God is pure act. There's no operation, he is act. But of all other things, as he has both speculative and practical knowledge, that means things other than his own essence. He has speculative knowledge as regards the mode. For whatever we know speculatively in things, by defining and dividing, God knows all this much more perfectly. God understands all speculative knowledge, the math, physics. He also understands how the practical matters work. And we imitate him when we go to like the College of St. Joseph, as I'm wearing the sweater today. The College of St. Joseph teaches practical knowledge of trade, how to build buildings, but they also have liberal arts classes that teach the speculative and the philosophical and the reasons behind all these things done. Check it out if you want to send your kiddo to, or go yourself, to learn how to be a tradesman with knowledge. Now, of things which he can make both, but does not make at any time, he has not a practical knowledge. According as knowledge is called practical from the end, but he has a practical knowledge of what he makes in some period of time. And as regards evil things, although they are not operable by him, yet they fall under his practical knowledge, like good things, inasmuch as he permits or impedes or directs them. As also sickness fall under the practical knowledge of the physician, inasmuch as he cures them by his art. The physician has a speculative knowledge of medicine in the body, but he also has a practical knowledge if he's actually a surgeon or a family practitioner and he treats these things in the person. God has all that kind of knowledge of all things. Reply to objection 1. The knowledge of God is the cause not indeed of himself, but of other things. He is actually the cause of some, that is, of things that come to be in some period of time. And he is virtually the cause of others, that is, of things which he can make and which nevertheless are never made. Wonder if virtual reality can be slipped into that some way to ponder. Seems like a far cry, but
I mean, it's hard because you're talking about things that are never made, so it's like
right. And virtual reality actually is a practical application.
It is a made thing. Yeah.
So it's just virtual in regards to this world,
right?
But there might be something there.
Well, you can conceive of something. It's not a perfect analogy, I guess, but you can conceive of something, build something that you can interact with physically, virtual reality, in some sense. Like you can track your hands and touch a laser beam gun, even though that doesn't exist.
Or a torch hitting a bat.
Or a torch hitting a bat, or like there's physics engines in which you can have objects interact that don't typically interact in the real life. You could find out what those are, and that's more speculative than practical because those things aren't actually happening.
Right.
So it's kind of a midpoint.
It's practical in the game.
Yeah.
But that's so interesting. But it's speculative for what you're wanting to do out into the world.
Right.
I love how God is bringing us into different levels of seeing, and this makes me often contemplate the reality of heaven. I think prior generations only thought of heaven as like a really clean earth, where the horses are really clean and run all day and don't get tired, and you have your favorite dessert there. I think that's kind of what heaven. But and now we're getting maybe too much into that stuff I've talked about at the retreat and everything. But there could be a completely other way of being that is still human and still applies to our human nature. The human nature hasn't changed completely. It's just, but it's divinized. I mean, it has changed. We shall not all sleep, but we shall be changed in a moment of twinkling of an eye. This lowly body of ours shall take on a new form. Okay. But still, we're still human. We still have a human divinized nature, just as Christ did after the resurrection. But notice how he goes in and out of rooms. Notice how he eats food from this world and then ascends to heaven. So there's a whole other type and levels of reality we could be enjoying in the next life, and different visions of different worlds, perhaps, or iterations of worlds that could be just fascinating and engrossing.
Yeah.
Okay. Reply to objection 2. The fact that knowledge is derived from things known does not essentially belong to speculative knowledge, but only accidentally in as far as it is human. Oh, he's saying, okay. I was wondering, why is there an I answer that over here? He's saying, in the I answer to what is objected on the contrary, we must say that perfect knowledge of operable things is obtainable only if they are known insofar as they are operable. Therefore, since the knowledge of God is in every way perfect, he must know what is operable by him formally as such, and not only insofar as they are speculative. Therefore, nevertheless, this does not impair the nobility of his speculative knowledge. For as much as he sees all things other than himself in himself, and he knows himself speculatively, and so in speculative knowledge of himself, he possesses both speculative and practical knowledge of all other things. Thomas is trying to button down the question. How can God know practical things when he is pure? He's trying to maintain the dignity of the idea of God being having speculative knowledge and not reduced to this material world. But there's a lot that can be said that, and I'm very, very interested to hear what the rabbis have to say about that. But we are at the end of the page. Turning of the page can be sponsored by, even though they don't agree with it, because we may say stuff that they don't like, but we'll go and have it sponsored by the College of St. Joseph, but not really.
We just like them.
We just like them.
They're cool.
That's it, dude. Remember, this is all straw. Go
Yeah.
pray. Sound good?
That sounds good, dude.
All right, we're done. Let's go and take care of what we need to take care of.
18 minutes.
That's the shortest ever, perhaps.
Maybe, yeah.
Yeah, I thought 20 minutes was the shortest.
We might have a shorter